Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 1110 for the 9th of March for the Ukraine war or the Special Military Operation in Ukraine. It's also known as the Situation Report or SITREP. So we're going to start off with the Kursk front again because massive news has happened. If you have watched the Frontline Changes report, you probably have already known that the Russians have captured at least 88 square kilometers, let me, like 88 square kilometers at the very least in the Kursk front. So we could definitely have to cover it. We will do clockwise direction all the way to the Kherson front. And for those that do not know, or maybe you're new to DPA somehow, this is the Kursk front, this is the Kharkiv front, Voreshna front, Borova front, Liman front, Sivers front, Bakhmut front, Torex front, Pokrov front, Andriivka front, Velika Novosilka front, and Zaporizhia front, and Kherson front. So there's a lot of front lines. Yeah, in case you are wondering. So anyway, over the Kursk front, as you can see, it's getting really Kursk over here. The is getting so ridiculous that it looks a bit like it looks a bit copish right now, by the look of it. So we just look at this northern part. Though a lot of these are Russian claims. Like this chunk here, this Russian claim, this geolocation, this Russian claim. So there's quite some Russian claim, but the claim most likely is going to be accurate so far. For the Kursk front, the claim so far has all checked out pretty well. So Russian forces have captured Lebedevka, Loknia, Nikorsky, Malaya, Loknia. And all these, multiple of them is all confirmed by geolocation. This is happening on the western flank. And then on the northern western flank all the way to the northern flank. And then over in the northeastern flank, the Russian forces allegedly have penetrated all the way to Kubakin. In the process, capturing Ivashkovsky, Pravda, Kotsitsa, and Chekhovsky Prashnoye. The entire northeast has fallen to the Russians around Krylik, Berdin. Martinovka has been geolocated, most likely under Russian control, and they have announced the capture of Mihailovka. And of course, we have the Russian troops that appears in the from the gas pipes around here. And according to the mapping, the entire railway line here also allegedly is under Russian control, which also means that either the Ukrainians is now massively encircled in various positions, or the entire area is now under Russian control, which is a matter of time. I'm quite sure there will be Ukrainian forces that is trapped in these forward positions that are unable to escape. That's also sure. There are also many footages and claims that the Ukrainian forces is in a mass withdrawal. Some call it a rout of Ukrainian forces from the Kursk front. Usually I would say I will call a rout, but I'm not even sure if I want to call this a rout, because it doesn't feel like a rout thing. It feels like it's just utter confusion and the Ukrainian forces just run to retreat, and maybe some call it rout. No, I'm just coping over here. I'm trying to help the pro-Ukrainians to not feel so bad, but don't be like this. So because they appear around here, the Russian forces, they seems to have already linked up with the main force coming from down to Kubakin. Fighting is already at Kozacha, Loknia, Podanovka. There are also fighting being reported at Vitoroy, Kniazy, as well as 1Y Kniazy. I believe that in the Frontline Changes report, I accidentally do a bit of a report of the entire Kursk front. So I think hopefully that will be helpful. It looks, I feel like I'm getting a bit all over the place, but just another thing about this is that this pipeline attack, the Russian forces, they have been claimed to have captured Mihailovka, and geolocation of Russians throwing the flag on Martinovka thus confirms that the Russians are nearby, which means that this is the main force. They can also potentially link up with this special force that have done this pipeline attack. So potentially these are also linked up as well. So this is usually pretty common. in airborne operations or in special forces operations, when they thrown into the rear positions, they try to hold a strategically important point, like a bridge, a building, or junction or something, a village, and then they will hold that position and wait for the main force to come. And this is very similar to the kind of situation where the Russian forces create a bridgehead of sorts, here, or a pipe head, a pipe head, the one with the pipe, and then there's this man-eating flower come out, in Super Mario, something like this. They basically is there, and the main force basically rushed down Martinovka, Mikhailovka, and then they linked up. Another force, in the pincer, goes all the way to Kubatkin, and they are now combating. Potentially they have also linked up, or maybe it's the other way around, they linked up with them. Also, it's a possibility. So strategically, I just want to explain a bit, rather than go into the reporting one by one. So we'll go into the front line later. I just want to talk about the strategic situation, how bad it is. So this, and then on the south, we also have the massive advancement. Ryba, the Prussian source, also claimed the Russians have captured Manovka. So this is yet another place that the Russians are pushing, and they have expanded the Kurilovka bridgehead as well, closing to Malovoy. Rumors are saying that Malovoy has already been taken by the Russians. So that's rumors for now. So I want to, before we go into the front reports, I want to show you this video. So this is actually the commander this is a former commander of Wagner's, basically talking about this operation. They call it the Potok operation. So this is the former commander of the 3rd SHO. I'm not exactly sure what is the SHO of the PMC Wagner, Zombie. His nickname is Zombie. He's a hero of Russia, so he got a full medal for that, I guess. And 6th Order of Courage. He fought in Syria, Central African Republic, and he's now the commander of the Vostok group of forces, apparently. So this is a high-ranking officer. So let's listen to what he says about this. So let me switch to this, and so that we can I can actually do this. Okay, this is bad. No. Okay, so just like this. Let's listen.
Как разрабатывалась операция, как вообще все начиналось, как подготовка?
Так называемая операция «Поток»
разрабатывалась
длительное время, больше 3 недель. В этой операции были задействованы многие силы, даже не силы, мероприятия были проведены колоссальные. Чтобы пройти по трубе, пришлось останавливать подачу газа, производить выкачку газа, закачку кислорода в трубу. После этого начали оборудовать выхода на поверхность, так называемые накопители для личного состава, занос еды, воды, оборудование туалетов. На это ушло более 3 недель. Сам завод личного состава,
the Airborne Assault Brigades,
моя
veteran
бригада
Vostok Brigade,
30-й полк
30th Motorized Rifle Regiment,
и 11-я бригада
11 Airborne,
участвовали в этой операции, также
AIDA Group,
АИДА, спецназ Ахмат. Все мы прошли по
этой трубе
15 километров завод,
more than 15 kilometers
в течение 4 суток. Дабы не раскрыть свои планы,
they dig for 4 days.
Нигде, чтобы нас противник не увидел, не обозначаться для противника. После того, как личный состав растил свои накопители, я ожидал в течение 4 суток был произведен завод более 800 человек.
800 people waiting for the command.
После получения команды мы вышли на
We received the order, they went to the surface and entered immediately.
В промышленную зону,
in the industrial zone, occupied it,
противника.
push the
Противник
Ukrainians.
не ожидал этой операции, вследствие чего он был
The Ukrainians did not
дезориентирован.
expect it,
У него началась паника, и
and then
благодаря
they
вот этим
panicked.
вот усилиям как бы были освобождены многие
So many
населенные
settlements are
пункты.
liberated because of this.
Черкасская, Поречная,
Черкасская,
Малая
Поречная, Малая Локня, Martinovka,
Правда, Михайловка, Кубацкий,
Makhalka,
многие
Кубацкий.
населенные пункты. Почему благодаря этой операции
Thanks to this
противник
operation,
реально
enemy
не ожидал
really did
такого
not expect
наступления,
such an
не
offensive.
ожидал, что наши войска окажутся у него в тылу за 15 километров.
So they did not expect the Ukrainians did not expect the Russians to appear 15 kilometers away in the rear position. So basically that answers a lot of questions. What happened in this operation? So apparently they have. So in case you kind of missed it, this entire thing or this entire operation was done across 3 weeks, and they have to first pump out all the gas because those are toxic. And then they pump out all the gas, they pump in oxygen. So the Ukrainians clearly was not monitoring the pipes. Because if you pump in air, any movement of the gas and air, they are unaware. So they do not have specialists or experts in the pipes on this gas pipeline to realize what is happening with the gas pipeline. So and it's also not easy, right? They have to pump out all the gas, pump in oxygen. And then they start to send troops into the pipeline. They went to where they came out from. I'm not exactly sure where is the pipe. Is it here? I'm not too sure where is the ending of the pipes. Exactly. They said they appear in the industrial zone. This is an industrial zone, I guess. Not entirely sure. Yeah, I know some other channels may have geolocated exactly where it is. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, there's a gas pump here. Yeah, it could be around here. But the thing is, they did not appear from where the pipe ends. They basically stop at the place where they believe is the ideal place to launch an attack. Then the first group of forces start to dig. So they dig for around 4 days to open up a potential exit they can come out from, and then over that time they have another group of force that is doing logistic, constantly bringing in supplies, food, water, ammunition, weaponries. As per we have talked about yesterday, the soldiers did not carry weapons. They basically just walk because it's a very long distance for them to walk. Like he said that it's 15 kilometers. So yesterday we talked about 12. So it's perhaps even further. So 15 kilometers walk in a tunnel, claustrophobic, is actually pretty freaking scary. I'm not joking. Not everybody is going to be able to mentally feel fine. Many people will just panic. So this is not easy, especially for such a long distance, and they have to live inside the pipelines inside these gas pipes for at least 2 days, and then they have to prepare some kind of toilet for it. Interesting, all this interesting planning. Of course, we play computer games, we don't think about it. Soldiers in the computer game don't need to drink and eat, like no need to shit. So but in a real life operation, these are all considered, which is very interesting. So they have considered all the welfare of the soldiers, make sure that they are fresh when they deploy. 800 soldiers was involved in this operation, and they all go through the pipe. 800 soldiers, quite crazy. And so all the storage in the forward position, open up a hole, and then try to stay hidden for 4 days, and then upon the command, launch an attack. And apparently the attack is clearly not just from here. It's an attack across the entire front line. As we can see, this is a massive, let's make the arrow thicker so that it looks thicker, it looks more correct, like massive offensive in multiple directions. And then of course open here. So this so all happened at the same time, of course here as well, so that the Ukrainians basically cannot react. because once you have everything burn out and light up at the same time, you do not know what the hell is happening. As you move along, suddenly the Russians are here and there behind you, in front of you, like because they appear in the rear position, it will panic the entire force. Logistic cannot move, and by the look of this, the logistic situation is horrible right now for the Ukrainians. If they continue to stay and fight, there's a major road. So let's zoom in a bit. Major road situation. Major road here. This is major road leading down. This leading up. There's another road. There is another road here. You can see that the forces come in. They have cut off this road. This group appearing cut off the road. Cut off this road. And then because the reinforcement route cannot be passed, as they are engaged with Russian forces, reinforcement cannot go on to save the northeast. And then so the northern part also cannot. And then the Russian forces already come out from Lebedevka. Potentially they could also have contributed to operations attacking towards Kubakin direction. So, and then you have another big force coming in the south that is distracting the Ukrainians. They have to react to that as well. So they got stuck here fighting with the special forces. They cannot get out. And yeah, the entire operation just collapsed. And what we get is that the Ukrainians start to redraw. So some of them they just gave up and they start to escape. So so that's the whole story. Very, very interesting summary from the commander of the Vostok group of forces. And in case you do not know, the Vostok group of forces is in charge. Is in charge of things further south. So somehow they are also in charge of the things happening in this area here. So anyway, very, very interesting. They definitely have redeployed forces from other places to focus on this area. I guess a lot of airborne troops, the Akhmat forces are there here as is operating as well. Motorized infantry is involved probably as the main infantry force that is helping to fight. Because special forces, they do crack attacks, then the infantries have to hold ground. So yeah, very, very intricate operation. Like fair weather people like me and you, sitting in the aircon of our room, on our armchair, we will probably cannot imagine doing this kind of thing or dealing with this kind of enemy. I'm just saying. So going to the front, we just go into details a bit. Over Lebedevka, we already mentioned this, I believe, largely. Ukrainian mapping have acknowledged the capture of Lebedevka. And based on Russian mapping, they have claimed that the front line now looks like this, with full securing of Loknia as well as the capture of Nikolsky. So this is pretty significant because there is a road running down here, and this road is now cut off. This road cannot be used anymore, and this also cuts into the railway line, which could potentially use for logistic, is also cut off now. So that is already gone. So and I will talk about this later. This thingy here, this pig leg. We'll talk about this later. Over at Malaya Loknia, the Russian forces have captured Malaya Loknia. It is already announced by the Russian Defense Ministry. They mentioned Malaya Loknia, Cherkasskaya Poroshnye, and Kostytsa all at the same time. And then geolocation of Russian forces raising the flag in some very spectacular footage, because the guy climb up onto a very, very high tower to basically fly the flag and through the radio announce the capture of Malaya Loknia. So this is something that the Russian forces have been waiting for a long time. They really wanted to liberate their own grounds in Kursk, but they were never able to do so because of operational challenges. Because the Ukrainians really put up a good fight. They really sent in a lot of very effective forces to this region. However, attritionally speaking, the Ukrainians can never out-attrition the Russians because of scale. The Ukrainians just don't have the scale in terms of manpower, equipments, and production of equipments, and of course technology to deal with the Russians. You just can't out-attrition the Russians. So anyway, so that is an unfortunate thing, which something that the Ukrainians doesn't seem to understand. So over in the Cherkasskoye Pereshne region, as mentioned, Russian forces have announced the capture of these two areas here. And based on Russian mapping, they have claimed that the Russian forces basically have fanned out greatly and stormed down the main road southwest of Cherkasskoye Pereshne in this direction. So, and from here, they continue, I shouldn't delete this, push up the whole thing. So the Russian forces continue on, captured Pravda, Ivashkovsky, and then heading all the way to Kubakin, where the Ukrainians are currently at. This area here is probably weaker defended, and the center part here around Kubakin is where the forward operating HQ is probably at, where the Russians basically storms into it and are basically clashing with the Ukrainians. So because this area here, this 1Y Kanazi, 2Y Kanazi, Kazacha, Loknya, Bodanovka, this, I should use a blue color. This chain of settlement, it is not blue. Come on, blue. Yeah, this chain of settlement is a satay stick of blueberries. And so this satay stick of blueberries is where they probably have their operational HQ in this region here. There's a lot of forest around here, which is good for hiding stuff. And there's also buildings and definitely, some kind of a resting place. So Russian forces storming down into Kubakin, potentially, attacking into Kozacha, Loknya. And of course, the special forces appearing out of the gas pipeline is nearby. They are attacking into 2Y Kanazi, which is also Victoro Kanazi, as well as Pervy Kanazi, the 1Y. And basically, putting maximum pressure on the HQ. And the Ukrainians just can't react. They basically can't even move out from this area here, totally trapped here. They cannot send reinforcement to the main front lines where the Russians are conducting their major offensives because they are trapped. Yeah, you don't need a lot of men to trap a big force. Because the big force wouldn't know how many men is on the other side, and nobody wants to die, right? So a small force can potentially, held up a big force for a long time, and this is probably what we are seeing over here. So pretty significant. And over in the rest of the northeast, I think we have mentioned this before. The Ukrainian mapping have acknowledged that they have lost everything around Berdin. And however, information come later was that the Russian forces basically have taken more grounds. So let me pull up this a bit more. And the Russian forces basically, based on Russian claims, they have taken Martinovka, and this geolocation confirmed that the Russians indeed have captured all of these areas here. Ukrainians can't possibly be anywhere around here. If they are probably also retreating, trying to run, only to clash with Russian forces that's already in their rear position. Can you imagine the panic? Like your enemies are suddenly behind you. So, and Russian announced the capture of Mikhailovka. And then they map that they are basically on the outskirts of Mikhailovka, and basically able to link up with the special forces around here. This links up just now, as I mentioned, they possibly already linked up in this way. So this means that the next mapping update, we potentially can see a massive frontline change, where all of these areas here that potentially still have Ukrainian forces is entirely taken by the Russian forces. So this is the northeast is just a calamity over here. So coming back to the center, geolocation, these are all geolocation of drone footage of the drone flying around here, allegedly claiming there's a lot of casualties. I see the footage is a bit too blur for me to tell. Yeah, and in the Sudja region, this is the Sudja region. So as mentioned, special forces around here, Mikhailivka around here. They are linking up, and they are fighting into Pervy Kanazi. Shellings reported at Zaleshenka, Rubanskina, and the Russian forces claim capture of Martinovka, with their mapping stretching out like this, including the expansion of the bridgehead over at Malovka, Kurilovka, heading probably in the direction of Molovoy. So these are all very big updates. Russian forces mentioned the capture of Russian Defense Ministry mentioned fighting at Agronom, Cherkasskoye, Konopelka, and so Koncharovka and Sudzha is mentioned. Most likely these are all potential attacks, no longer shelling. So the entire Sudzha region is now under threat of encirclement or envelopment from multiple directions. Not encirclement yet. The Russians are not yet on the encirclement of Sudzha yet, but they have the encirclement of the entire Kursk front as a possibility. We have no updates as per this recording of any advancement by the Russians at Basivka and this Korolovka bridgehead to cut off the road. So far, nothing on this yet. The only thing closest to this is this area here where the Russian mapping have claimed to have expanded control from the forest that they have taken in the Korolovka sector. So, and over in the south, Goevo is still mentioned. Russian Defense Ministry mentioned Goevo in their report, probably attacking coming south from the bridgehead. So that's the entire situation at the Kursk front. A lot of things to talk about, and just on the Kursk front, and of course showing the videos and analysis of the strategic situation of specific front line that took 25 minutes. So for those that are still watching, if it's your birthday today, happy birthday to you. Congratulations to your birthday, and congrats that you are not here, having to fight, and that you can actually be at home and watch this, and also have a happy non-birthday to the rest who is not having birthday. Yeah, so it's still important, right? You don't only celebrate life on your birthday. That would be quite sad, right? 364 days of sadness, only 1 day of happiness. Not a good way to live life, no. So moving on. I almost forgot to breathe. So let's go to Kharkiv front. At the Kharkiv front, we have fighting reporter at Kozacha Lokpan, mentioned by the Russian Defense Ministry. They also mentioned Voschansk. Voschansk is also mentioned by the Ukrainians. So these are the reports of fighting with the Ukrainians and Russians talking about Voschansk, and the Russians talking about Kozacha Lokpan. So for those that haven't been following DPA, I always warn that Kozacha Lokpan is a very dangerous place for the Ukrainians, because Kozacha Lokpan used to be a stronghold of the Russians when the Kharkiv front, in the first year of the war. So if the Russians get back in, it's going to be a big problem for the Ukrainians. So there's something to note. Over in the Voreshna front, at the Voreshna front, around Voreshna, we have fighting reporter at Petro Ivanivka, Monakinivka, as well as Kinderashivka. So this is Voreshna, by the way. Information is coming from Ukrainians, Russians, and Russians. So this is Ukrainian report. Russians are talking about fighting further in the south. The Ukrainians are talking about the Russians are pushing northward. So most likely both is correct. So an interesting thing is that there is no more updates regarding the Voreshna. The Ukrainians previously launched this major operation, counteroffensive over here. Compared to the Russians, it's a minor offensive, but for the Ukrainians, it's pretty major. After initial success, where they reached all the way here, there is no more updates. It looks like the entire offensive has fizzled out. So yeah, so like many of the Ukrainian offensive operations, they tend to fizzle out, which is quite sad. Over at the Kupiansk front, so this is Kupiansk, and this is the Kupiansk front. Russian forces are attacking Kupiansk, Petropavlivka, and Zagoryukivka. Ukrainians, according to Ukrainian mapping, alleged that they have success over at Sinkivka, capturing some ground. So we're going to zoom in back. But this information from the Russians, Ukrainians, and Russians. So this Russian, Ukrainians, Russian, Ukrainians. So this is the current setup strategically. Zooming in, Ukrainian mapping have claimed that the front line now look like this, with the Ukrainians retaking the forest in the southwest of Sinkivka. I'm not sure. It feels a bit weird. Like I said, this is my criticism for the Ukrainians. On the Ukrainian forces, is that they constantly just dissipate their forces across all the different front lines, and they are being too greedy. They are attacking too many places at once. Everything is all spread out, and they are not getting anything done. And this capturing of all these forests is not meaningful, unfortunately. And most likely they are just entering into places where the Russians have basically retreated from. and to draw them back in for deeper into this conundrum. So that's something. So this reported by Deep State UA, they say they regained positions near Sinkivka. So that's all from the Kupiansk front. Moving south at the Borova front, the front line here continued to be a bit of a quiet. Oh, I just realized I did not change my screen. Oh, my bad. I'm not sure if all the arrows was seeable or not. Like, yeah, I'm so sad. I'm so sorry. Yeah, because because this area here just now was the invisible. My bad. So sorry. So you have to press the like button, to encourage me not to be sad. And subscribe. If you're not subscribed, we are going for 100,000 subscribers. And over at Borova front, fighting is reported at Zarizove as well as Lozova. So fighting is reported by Ukrainians and the Ukrainians. So both are Ukrainian reports. The Russians totally don't talk about Borova at all. So oh my god, I'm thinking back. Oh my god, I think a lot of the drawings, a lot of the arrows I draw might be invisible. Let's hope not. At the rear of Borova, shelling is reported at Pivisoke as well as Horokovatka. Mentioned by the Russian Defense Ministry, Horokovatka is here, and Podvisokoye. No. So some shelling in the rear positions is a bit interesting. So but not very important. Over at the Liman front, at the northern flank of the Liman front, not very northern. Okay, so let's focus on here. Russian forces attack at Bakazuravka, which is also known as Nevsky. Fighting is reported at Novolubivka, Ivanivka, Myrne, Yampolivka. So information coming from Ukrainians. So all the information is Ukrainians. So all of these are Ukrainian reports. They're talking about Russians are pushing out. Maybe the Russians are keeping quiet about their offensive operations. So and you can see this across the entire front line. So this is definitely a full all front operation. So let's see whether this will yield any results. And Serebrensky Forestry, there is fighting reported here according to the Russian Defense Ministry. Some kind of operations around inside of the forest. Over at the Sivas front. At the Sivas front, we have the mention of Dronevka, Serbianka, maybe some attacks in the north, Krajhorivka, Bilohorivka, Velkomokanyamske, and Sivas. So frontline changes in the north, I already mentioned in the previous reports. So this is mentioned by the Ukrainians, Russians, Ukrainians, Russians. Ukrainian, Russians, Ukrainian, Russians. And then Velkomokanyamske is by the Ukrainians, and Sivas by the Russians. So let's move Ukrainian, Russians. So so it's getting a little bit hot, particularly along this line here. But most likely just shelling. I'm still waiting to see what else happening at Velkomokanyamske and whether the Russians can push out more over at Bilohorivka. So that's all for now. Sivas front tend to be very strong. For the Ukrainians Russians tend to struggle very, very hard over this sector. Over the Bakhmut front, we have the fighting reported at Krajhorivka, Chasivya, Stupovsky, and Bilohora. The information is coming from all Ukrainian Defense Ministry. They are all Ukrainian reports. The Russians didn't have any reports about the Bakhmut front. So that's all for now. And then we move into the Torex front. At the Torex front, we have fighting reported at Druzhba, Dashny, Dilievka, and Torex, as well as Krebenivka. The information coming from Russian, Ukrainians. So this is a Russian, Ukrainian. So there's the current report that we have. No mention of Krimsky, interestingly. So let's see. The Torex situation is currently in a fog of war. After the very daring Ukrainian attacks into Torex, we have no more updates regarding what's happening inside Torex city. So I'm not entirely sure exactly what's happening right now. So let's wait and see how this continue to play out. And in the southern flank of the Torex front, Alexandropil was mentioned by the Russian Defense Ministry, some kind of operation around here. As mentioned yesterday, this is reported by both sides yesterday. So something must be happening, but yeah, we shall see. This strategically, this is not very important. Over in the northern flank of the Pokrov front. So by the way, this is Pokrov. This northern flank, Minograd sector, Pokrov sector, and the southern sector. So basically, this is the Pokrov front. Over in the northern flank, we have geolocation of Russian forces inside of Tarasivka. So this is one of the latest geolocation. This is on the 10th, as you can see, which is current day. The Russian forces geolocated in the southern part of Tarasivka, confirming Russians entering into Tarasivka, and this also confirmed the Russian capture of Baranivka. So now the Baranivka is now confirmed capture due to the invalidation of Ukrainian claims around Baranivka due to the geolocation. So this is pretty significant in that sense. Otherwise, so we have fighting reported at Melanivka and Yelizavetivka. So mainly that's all. Ukrainians, this is reported by Ukrainians, Melanivka is by the Russians. So this Ukrainian report, Russian report. So maybe these are the same thing. It could be just a general attack in this sector. So let's wait and see how this will continue to play out. Over in the Minograd sector. So at the Minograd sector, so can I feed in everything? Yeah, barely. So Russian forces attacked Mariupolivka, Promin, Minograd, Novopavlivka, Dechansky, towards Pokrov, as well as Shevchenko. Ukrainian forces geolocated inside Shevchenko, confirming Ukrainians have some success around Shevchenko. I can zoom in later. Otherwise, the reports, this by the Russians, Ukrainians. So Russian, Ukrainians, and then this is Russian report. This is Russian as well. This is Ukrainian. So Russian, Ukrainian, and Mariupolivka is by the Russians. So let me push this back, and Russians. So you can see the Russian reporting is largely focusing on this side of the Minograd sector, talking about this entire line, which is actually a static line. So this is actually a static line. For those that are not familiar with my reporting, I always say that the front line here unlikely to change much. So this is the static line. I believe these are all skirmish reports. These are not real offensive operations. So we'll continue to monitor. And then zooming into the Shevchenko situation, Ukrainian forces geolocated inside Shevchenko in the center of Shevchenko, confirming the Ukrainians have launched a major offensive operation into Shevchenko. The Russians hardly defended it. So the Ukrainians captured grounds at Shevchenko. However, this is the only success over the past 24 hours for the Ukrainians. And so the battle continues. Over at the Pokrov sector, fighting is reported at Zvivrove. Ukrainians attacked Pischane, Russians attacked Kotline, the Udashne, and Uspenivka. So Pischane is mentioned by the Russian source, and Zvivrove by the Russians, Ukrainians and Russians, Russian, and the last one, I'm stuck. And Uspenivka is by the Russians. So Russians, Ukrainians, Russian, and Russian reports. So it's mainly all Russian reporting. So that's all. So that's the situation in this Pokrov sector. The Serhievka is not mentioned in the past 24 hours. In the southern flank, we have fighting reported at Nadievka, Preobrazhenka, as well as Sripne. If I'm not wrong, these are all Russian reportings. Also, Preobrazhenka is by the Ukrainians, this is Russian, and then Nadievka is by the Ukrainians. Oh, I'm wrong. So I remember wrongly. So the Ukrainians are talking about a main push in this area here, and then the Russians are now just drooping down. So that's all. And we move into the Andriivka front. Yeah, I need to breathe. 39 minutes already. Crazy. So if you're still watching to this point, well, you should get a medal. You should get a medal. Yeah. So over at the Andriivka front, we have geolocations confirming the Russians have fully captured Constantinople, and this capture has already been announced by the Russian Defense Ministry. They have announced the full capture of Constantinople. Fighting is reported at Rosleaf, towards Berhatir, and towards Oleksievka. Fighting is also reported at Andriivka. The Ukrainian side, particularly the Deep State UA, the pro-Ukrainian source, continue to assert that Constantinople is not under Russian control, despite geolocations already showing that there is firm Russian presence around there, and the Russian Defense Ministry also announced it. So, and they're still talking about fighting at Ulakli, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, and they also still mentioning fighting at Constantinople. So, fighting is reported at Andriivka, also by the Ukrainians. So these are all Ukrainian reports. They are still talking about the fighting around this region here, whereas the Russians are talking about Rosleaf, Berhatir, and Oleksievka. So the Russians are already moving on. They talk about the new places that they are attacking, while the Ukrainians are still talking about these trio settlements around here at the Andriivka front. Yeah, so this is the divide, the different perception of the reality. However, because of geolocation, the Russian version of events most likely is accurate. We move into the Velika Novosilka front. Velika Novosilka is here, and this is the front line. In the northern flank, northern flank here, we are fighting reported at Dnipro Energeia, Skutny, towards Vasily, Bulatske, and there's shelling reported at Fedorivka and Voskresenka. So Dnipro Energeia, Russian, Skutny, Ukrainians, Russian, Ukrainians. So Russian, Ukrainians, Russian, Ukrainians. So that's the current situation. Most likely, most likely it's more or less the same. It's not particularly different. Priveny was also mentioned. So if you push this up a bit, Priveny is mentioned by the Ukrainians as well, with the Russians attacking Priveny. So yeah, the Russians are definitely pushing in the direction of Shevchenko, whereas they are still trying to push up the Mokriali River. The Ukrainians seems to be doing a pretty good job around here. They are defending pretty well. The Russians have not managed to capture ground here for at least a week now. And over in the southern flank of the Pokrov front, Velika Novosilka front, Novopil is mentioned by the Ukrainians. So just one report here. And that's all from the Velika Novosilka front. At the Zaporizhia front, we have the concentration of reports mainly around the Koyamsky sector and a little bit in the Orikhiv sector. So we zoom in a bit. So we can't zoom in too much. Okay, so fighting is reported at Nestryanka, Shevaki, Stepove, Pyatikaki, as well as shelling reported at Pavlivka. Pavlivka is definitely by the Russians because the Russians always talk about some of their shelling. And then Pyatikaki by the Russians. The rest is, I think, all Ukrainian reports, correct. So Pyatikaki is mentioned by the Russians. Ukrainians are talking about Stepove, Shebaki, and Nestryanka. So this is the current reporting. There is still Russian offensive operations around here. Like I said before, this is limited offensive. This is not a full-fledged offensive as we've seen in the Kursk front. So that's all from this area here. Some small geolocation, small frontline change towards Novodanilivka is noted, close to Robotine, but that's all. And over in the Kherson front, at the Kherson front, we have just one shelling reported over at Davidiv Breed. We haven't seen this name for a long time. So yeah, so that's all. Just one shelling report over there, and that's it. So this is the entire summary for the day of 1110 for the 9th of March. So happy birthday to you if your birthday today again. And so have a great day ahead or a great night ahead depending on what time you watch this video. So thank you for watching. Subscribe if you're not subscribed because 100,000 subs, that's our goal right now. So I can get the silver plug, and hopefully YouTube will treat me nicer if I have a silver plug. And that's it. Press like, and I'll see you guys in the next update.